Jake Morrison wiped his sweaty palms on his jeans for the 10th time that evening. He stood outside Romano's Italian restaurant, watching people walk by on the busy Denver street. His heart was beating fast. After 3 months of buying coffee from Katie Walsh and making small talk, he had finally asked her out. She had said yes. Katie arrived right on time, wearing a blue dress that made her eyes look even prettier than usual. She smiled at Jake, and he felt his nerves calm down a little. "You look great," Jake said, opening the restaurant door for her. "Thanks," Katie replied. "I'm excited. I love Italian food." The restaurant was warm and cozy. Red checkered tablecloths covered small tables. Soft music played in the background. Jake had called ahead to get a good table by the window. Everything was going perfectly. They sat down and looked at their menus. Jake was proud of himself for picking such a nice place. He worked as a mechanic at Thompson's Auto Repair, so he did not eat at fancy restaurants very often. But Katie was worth it. "The pasta here looks amazing," Katie said, reading her menu. "Yeah, my friend Ryan said this place has the best food in the city," Jake replied. He was starting to relax. Katie seemed to be having a good time. They ordered their food and started talking. Katie told him about her job at the coffee shop and her plans to go back to school. Jake told her about fixing cars and his dream of opening his own garage someday. The conversation flowed easily. Jake could not believe how well things were going. Their food arrived and it smelled wonderful. Jake had ordered chicken parmesan and Katie had chosen the lasagna. They both took their first bites and made happy sounds. "This is so good," Katie said, smiling. Jake was about to agree when something crashed through the front window of the restaurant. Glass flew everywhere. People screamed and jumped up from their tables. Jake pushed his chair back and grabbed Katie's hand, ready to run. But then he saw what had crashed through the window. It was a woman. She stood up slowly, brushing glass off her clothes like it was nothing. She was tall and very pale. Her hair was long and silver, almost white. She wore a black outfit that looked like it came from another time period, but the strangest thing about her was her eyes. They were bright purple and they seemed to glow in the restaurant lights. The woman looked around the restaurant until her eyes found Jake. When she saw him, her face changed completely. She smiled like she had found something she had been looking for her whole life. "My beloved," she said in a voice that had a strange accent. "At last I have found you." Jake felt confused and scared. "I think you have the wrong person," he said. The woman started walking toward their table. Other people in the restaurant were running toward the back exit, but Jake felt frozen in place. Katie squeezed his hand tighter. "There is no mistake," the woman said. She stopped right in front of their table. "You are my husband. The blood calls to blood. The old contract binds us across time and space." "What are you talking about?" Jake asked. "I don't know you." Katie was staring at the woman with wide eyes. "Jake, we should go," she whispered. The woman ignored Katie completely. She reached out her hand toward Jake. "I am Lyra Nightfall of the House of Eternal Stars. I have searched this world for decades to find you, my love. You have your husband's face, his voice, his very soul." "Lady, I think you're confused," Jake said, standing up. "I've never seen you before in my life." Lyra shook her head. "The contract was signed in blood under the light of 3 moons. You promised yourself to me for all time. Death could not break our bond." "Death? What death?" "I'm alive and I've never been married," Jake said. He was getting more confused by the second. Katie suddenly stood up and backed away from the table. "Jake, there's something wrong with her eyes. They're glowing." Lyra finally looked at Katie. Her purple eyes seemed to flash brighter. "Who is this mortal child? Why does she stand so close to my husband?" "She's not a child, she's my date," Jake said, getting angry. "And I'm not your husband. Your date?" Lyra looked confused. "But we are bound by cosmic law. The sanguine do not break their vows." "The what?" Jake asked. Lyra ignored his question and turned back to Katie. "Little one, you must leave. This man belongs to me by right of blood and star magic." "Star magic?" Katie laughed, but it sounded scared. "Jake, this woman is crazy. We need to call the police." "The police cannot help you," Lyra said calmly. "Mortal laws do not apply to the bonds of the sanguine." Jake stepped between Lyra and Katie. "Look, whoever you are, you need to leave us alone. I don't know what game you're playing, but it's not funny." Lyra stared at Jake with those strange purple eyes. "This is no game, beloved. I have traveled across the galaxy to find you. I have waited 400 years for this moment. 400 years? Jake laughed. Lady, I'm 28 years old. Your soul is ancient even if your body is young, Lyra said. You have been reborn, but you are still mine. Katie grabbed Jake's arm. We're leaving. Now. But when they tried to walk toward the exit, Lyra moved faster than any human could move. 1 second she was by their table. The next second she was blocking their path to the door. You cannot leave, she said. We have much to discuss, my husband. There are ceremonies to perform, vows to renew. Jake looked around the restaurant. All the other customers had run away. Even the waiters had disappeared. Only the 3 of them remained, surrounded by broken glass and abandoned dinner plates. This is insane, Katie said. Jake, do something. But Jake did not know what to do. He was a mechanic, not a hero. He fixed cars and changed oil. He had never dealt with strange women who crashed through windows and claimed to be his wife. Lyra smiled at Jake, and he noticed that her teeth looked very sharp. Come, beloved, she said, reaching out her hand again. Let us go home to the stars. Jake looked at Katie, then at Lyra, then at the broken window. This was definitely not how he had planned his first date to go. Jake woke up the next morning hoping the previous night had been a very strange dream. He reached for his phone to check the time and nearly jumped out of bed. Lyra was sitting in the chair by his window watching him sleep. Good morning, beloved, she said with a smile. I trust you slept well. Jake pulled his blanket up to his chin. How did you get in here? I locked my door. Locks cannot keep me from my husband, Lyra said. She stood up and walked toward his bed. I brought you breakfast. On his nightstand sat a plate of what looked like purple fruit and some kind of silver bread. It did not smell like any food Jake had ever seen before. I don't want your food, Jake said. I want you to leave. Lyra looked hurt. But I made it especially for you. On my homeworld, it is traditional for a wife to prepare the morning meal. Your homeworld? Jake asked. Where exactly are you from? The 3rd moon of Sanguis Prime in what you call the Orion system, Lyra said. It is a beautiful place. You will love it when we return. Jake rubbed his face with his hands. Look, I don't know how to make this clearer. I am not your husband. I have never been to space. I was born in Denver and I have lived here my whole life. Your current life, yes, Lyra agreed. But souls travel through many forms. You lived before, beloved. You were my husband then. That's impossible, Jake said. Nothing is impossible when love spans the cosmos, Lyra replied. Jake got out of bed and grabbed some clothes. I'm going to take a shower. When I come out, I want you gone. I will wait for you, Lyra said happily. Jake locked the bathroom door and turned on the shower. He could not believe this was happening. The woman was clearly crazy, but she had crashed through a restaurant window without getting hurt. And her eyes really did glow purple. When he came out of the bathroom, Lyra was still there. She had moved to his kitchen and was examining his refrigerator. Your food preservation methods are very primitive, she said. On Sanguis Prime, we keep our nourishment in crystal chambers that maintain perfect freshness for centuries. Great, Jake said. Can you maintain perfect distance from me for centuries too? Lyra laughed. You always had such a wonderful sense of humor. Even when you were Lord Demon of the Dark Court, you could make me smile. Lord Demon? Jake asked. Is that supposed to be me? Your previous form, yes. You were very powerful then. You commanded the night winds and spoke with the voices of ancient spirits. Jake put on his work boots. Lady, I can barely command my old truck to start in the morning. He grabbed his keys and headed for the door. I'm going to work now. Please don't be here when I get back. I will come with you, Lyra said, following him. No, you will not. But when Jake got to his truck, Lyra was already sitting in the passenger seat. How did you do that? Jake asked. I told you, beloved. I am sanguine. We move differently than mortals. Jake drove to Thompson's Auto Repair in silence. He kept looking at Lyra out of the corner of his eye. She stared out the window with wonder, like she had never seen a city before. Your world has changed much since my last visit, she said. When were you here before? Jake asked. 50 Earth years ago. There were fewer metal beasts then. Metal beasts? Lyra pointed at the cars on the road. Those creatures. Though I see now they are not alive. How curious. Jake parked outside the garage and turned to face her. Listen, I'm going to be working on cars all day. Real cars with engines and oil and tools. It's dirty and loud and boring. You don't want to hang around here. I want to be wherever you are, Lyra said. Jake's boss, Mr. Thompson, was waiting by the garage door when they walked up. Jake, who's your friend? Mr. Thompson asked. This is... Jake started, then realized he did not know how to explain Lyra. This is Lyra. She's... visiting. Lyra stepped forward and bowed deeply. Greetings, Elder. I am Lyra Nightfall, bride of your servant Jake Morrison. Mr. Thompson raised his eyebrows. Bride? Jake, you didn't tell me you were getting married. I'm not, Jake said quickly. She's confused. There is no confusion, Lyra said. The bond was sealed under sacred law. Mr. Thompson looked back and forth between them. Well, congratulations, I guess. Just try to keep the personal stuff out of the work area, okay? Jake spent the morning trying to focus on fixing a broken transmission, while Lyra watched his every move. She asked questions about everything. Why do you repair these metal beasts instead of commanding them with your will? She asked. Because they're machines. Not magic, Jake said, tightening a bolt. On my world, we simply speak to our vehicles and they obey. Well, on my world, we use wrenches. Around lunchtime, Jake's best friend Ryan showed up to have his motorcycle looked at. He took one look at Lyra and grinned. Well, well, Ryan said. Who's the gothic princess, Jake? This is Lyra, Jake said. She thinks I'm her husband. Ryan laughed. Dude, did you get married in Vegas and forget to tell me? I am his wife by cosmic decree, Lyra said seriously. We were bonded in the time before time. Ryan's grin got bigger. I like her already. She's way more interesting than that coffee shop girl you've been mooning over. Her name is Katie and she won't return my calls, Jake said. I wonder why. Perhaps because she knows she cannot compete with true love, Lyra suggested. Jake threw down his wrench. For the last time, I don't love you. I don't even know you. Love is not always conscious, beloved. Sometimes it sleeps in the soul until awakened. Ryan was enjoying this way too much. So Lyra, where are you from? The outer rim of the galaxy, she replied. My people are called the Sanguine. Cool, are you like an alien or something? I am as real as the stars themselves, Lyra said. Jake tried to get back to work, but Ryan kept asking Lyra questions. She told him about her home world, about space travel, about her people's customs. She spoke about these things like they were completely normal. The worst part was that some of her stories sounded almost believable. She knew things about astronomy that Jake had never heard before. She described planets and star systems in detail. When Ryan asked her about faster-than-light travel, she explained it like she was talking about riding a bus. As the day went on, more of Jake's co-workers gathered around to listen to Lyra's stories. She told them about wars between star systems, about creatures that lived in the void of space, about cities built inside asteroids. This is crazy, Jake muttered to himself. But when closing time came and Jake went to his truck, Lyra was waiting for him again. I have prepared dinner for us at your dwelling, she announced. I told you not to go back to my apartment, Jake said. A wife must care for her husband's needs, Lyra replied. When they got to Jake's apartment, he smelled something amazing coming from his kitchen. Lyra had somehow cooked a meal that looked and smelled better than anything he had ever eaten. Where did you get this food? Jake asked. I brought supplies from my ship, Lyra said. Your ship? It is hidden in your mountain range. A small vessel, suitable for one person. Jake sat down at his kitchen table and looked at the alien woman who claimed to be his wife. She had made herself at home in his apartment. She knew things about space that no human should know. She could move faster than any person he had ever seen. Maybe she really was from another planet. But that still did not make her his wife. Lyra, he said carefully, even if everything you're telling me is true, even if you really are from space, that doesn't mean I'm your husband. Lyra sat across from him and took his hands in hers. Her skin was very cold. In time you will remember, she said. The love we shared burns eternal. No distance can destroy it. No death can end it. Jake pulled his hands away. I think you've got the wrong guy. But as he looked into her glowing purple eyes, he wondered if maybe somehow she might be right. Jake was eating breakfast when the sky outside his window started glowing. At first he thought it was the sunrise, but then he remembered the sun did not usually shine bright blue. He looked out and saw what appeared to be a massive ship hovering silently over downtown Denver. Oh no, Lyra said from the kitchen. They found us. Who found us? Jake asked, but he was pretty sure he did not want to know the answer. The Galactic Mediation Council, Lyra replied. Someone must have reported our contract dispute. Contract dispute? Jake stared at her. Is that what you call this? Before Lyra could answer, Jake's apartment filled with a strange humming sound. 3 figures appeared in his living room, like they had been beamed down from the ship outside. Jake rubbed his eyes, but they were still there. The first figure looked almost human except for blue skin and 4 arms. The second one resembled a giant insect wearing a business suit. The third looked like a walking tree with eyes. Greetings, said the blue one in a voice that sounded like it came from a computer. I am Administrator Vex 9 of the Galactic Mediation Council. We are here regarding Case File 847 Alpha, Disputed Sanguine Blood Contract. Jake felt dizzy. This is not happening. Oh, it is very much happening, said the insect in a buzzing voice. I am legal advocate Zrix. We received a formal complaint about improper contract enforcement. The tree person spoke in a voice like wind through leaves. I am cultural observer Groot 7. I am here to ensure proper protocol is followed. Lyra bowed to the 3 aliens. Honored council members, there has been a misunderstanding. My husband simply needs time to remember his true nature. Husband? Vex 9 turned to Jake. You are the human male listed as Demon Blackheart in the original contract? I'm Jake Morrison, Jake said. I've never heard of any Demon Blackheart. According to our records, Zrix said, consulting a glowing tablet, you are genetically identical to the Sanguine Lord who signed a blood bond with Lyra Nightfall in the year 2624 by your calendar. That's impossible, Jake said. I wasn't alive in 2624. Souls can be reborn, Groot 7 explained, though usually they maintain some memory of previous lives. I don't have any memories of previous lives, Jake said. I remember being born in Denver General Hospital 28 years ago. Vex 9 looked at his tablet. This is highly irregular. According to galactic law, blood contracts are binding across all incarnations of the soul. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means you belong to me, Lyra said happily. It means, Zrix corrected, that if the contract is valid, you are legally bound to honor the marriage agreement regardless of your current memories or wishes. Jake felt like he was falling down a rabbit hole, but I don't want to be married to her. I don't even know her. Personal feelings are not relevant to contract law, Vex 9 said. However, there are procedures for dispute resolution. The tree person, Groot 7, walked around Jake's apartment, examining everything. This is fascinating. A genuine human habitat. I have never seen one before. You've never seen a human? Jake asked. Humans are new to galactic society, Groot 7 explained. Your species was only discovered 3 months ago when our long-range sensors detected Lyra's ship entering your solar system. Wait, Jake said. You mean first contact with aliens is happening because of my dating problems? Essentially, yes, Vex 9 confirmed. The Galactic Council has been monitoring the situation. Your government has been notified. As if on cue, Jake's apartment door burst open. Several people in black suits rushed in, followed by a woman with short brown hair and serious eyes. Nobody move, the woman said, showing a badge. Agent Lisa Park, Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. Department of what now? Jake asked. We've been tracking alien activity in the Denver area for the past week, Agent Park said. Are you Jake Morrison? Yeah, but I didn't do anything wrong, Jake said. Mr. Morrison, you are currently at the center of humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization, Agent Park said. We need to debrief you immediately. He cannot leave, Lyra said. We have a contract hearing. The human government has no authority over galactic law, Vex 9 agreed. However, we are willing to include human representatives in our proceedings. Agent Park looked around at the aliens in Jake's living room. This is way above my pay grade. What exactly is going to happen to me? Jake asked. Zrix consulted his tablet again. First, we will examine the original contract to determine its validity. Then we will test your genetic compatibility with the binding. Finally, we will render a legal judgment. And if you decide the contract is real, then you will be required to honor it, Vex 9 said. You will become a citizen of the Sanguine Empire and travel to Sanguis Prime with your wife. And if it's not real, then Lyra will face charges for illegal abduction and contract fraud. Lyra looked worried for the first time since Jake had met her. But the contract is real. I have it with me. She reached into her black outfit and pulled out what looked like a piece of metal covered in strange symbols. It glowed with a soft purple light. "Blood of my blood, signed under 3 moons," she said. "Demon Blackheart pledged himself to me for all eternity." Zrix took the metal contract and examined it with a special device. "The signature is authentic. The blood seal is intact. The contract appears to be legitimate." "Great," Jake said. "So I'm doomed." "Not necessarily," Groot 7 said. "There is something very unusual about your genetic readings." "What do you mean?" Agent Park asked. "Humans appear to possess a rare trait," Groot 7 explained. "You are naturally resistant to sanguine bonding magic." "Magic?" Jake asked. "What you call magic, we call bioneural manipulation," Vex 9 said. "The sanguine use it to create emotional and spiritual bonds with their mates." "But it's not working on you," Zrix added, looking puzzled. "Your resistance levels are off the charts." Lyra stepped closer to Jake. "What does this mean?" "It means," Groot 7 said slowly, "that even if the contract is real, it may not be enforceable on a human subject." "This is unprecedented," Vex 9 said. "We need to convene a full tribunal. How long will that take?" Agent Park asked. "In galactic terms, not long. Perhaps 2 of your days." Jake sat down heavily in his chair. "So I have to wait 2 days to find out if I'm going to be shipped off to another planet?" "The hearing will be held aboard our ship," Zrix said. "All parties must be present." "I'll need to contact my superiors," Agent Park said. "This is going to require coordination at the highest levels of government." "Government?" Jake asked. "Why does the government care about my personal life?" "Mr. Morrison," Agent Park said, "you are about to become the most important person on Earth. How this case turns out could determine the future of human-alien relations." Jake looked around his apartment at the aliens, the government agents, and Lyra, who was still holding the glowing contract. "I just wanted to take a nice girl out for dinner," he said. "Fate rarely cares about our small plans," Lyra said softly. "This is not fate," Jake replied. "This is the worst case of mistaken identity in galactic history." Vex 9 began pressing buttons on his tablet. "We will return tomorrow to escort all parties to the tribunal ship. Please prepare any evidence you wish to present." "What kind of evidence?" Jake asked. "Anything that proves your identity, your humanity, or your resistance to sanguine influence," Zrix explained. The 3 aliens started to glow and then disappeared, presumably beaming back to their ship. Agent Park gathered her team. "Mr. Morrison, we'll have agents watching your building tonight. Don't go anywhere." After the government agents left, Jake found himself alone with Lyra again. "Are you worried?" he asked her. "A little," she admitted. "I have searched so long to find you. If the tribunal rules against us, you'd have to let me go." "Yes, and I would be punished for breaking galactic law." Jake looked at her sad face and felt something he had not expected. He felt sorry for her. "Lyra, what if I really am not your husband? What if you've made a mistake?" "Then I will have lost the only thing that mattered to me," she said quietly. For the first time, Jake wondered what it would be like to be loved that much by someone, even if that someone was a space vampire who had ruined his first date with Katie. "I guess we'll find out tomorrow," he said. Lyra nodded and sat down on his couch. "May I stay here tonight? I do not wish to be alone before the tribunal." Jake sighed. "I guess one more night won't matter." As he got ready for bed, Jake thought about how much his life had changed in just a few days. A week ago, his biggest worry was whether Katie would say yes to a date. Now he was waiting to find out if he would spend the rest of his life on an alien planet. Sometimes life was very strange indeed. The tribunal ship was nothing like Jake had expected. Instead of cold metal halls, it looked more like a fancy courthouse mixed with a space museum. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that showed images of different planets and star systems. Jake sat at a table with Agent Park and 2 other government officials who had flown in from Washington. Across from them, Lyra sat with a sanguine lawyer who had arrived that morning. The lawyer looked similar to Lyra but older, with white hair and silver eyes. "The tribunal will now come to order," announced Administrator Vex 9 from a raised platform. He was joined by 6 other alien judges, each from a different species. "This case involves the disputed blood contract between Lyra Nightfall of the Sanguine Empire and the human known as Jake Morrison," Vex 9 continued. "The question before us is whether this contract is valid and enforceable." Lyra's lawyer, who called himself Advocate Thorne, stood up first. Honored Tribunal, the evidence is clear. The defendant carries the exact genetic signature of Lord Damon Blackheart, who willingly entered into a blood bond with my client 400 years ago. He held up a device that projected Jake's DNA pattern in the air. Next to it appeared another pattern that looked identical. As you can see, there is no doubt that this human is the reincarnation of Lord Demon. Under sanguine law and galactic precedent, reincarnated souls are bound by the contracts of their previous lives. One of the alien judges, who looked like a floating jellyfish, asked, "What evidence do you have that the original contract was valid?" Advocate Thorne produced the glowing metal contract. The blood seal is intact. The binding was witnessed by the High Court of Sanguis Prime. Lord Damon pledged his eternal soul to Lady Lyra in exchange for her protection during the War of the Seven Suns. "I object," said Agent Park, standing up. "My government was not aware of any War of the Seven Suns. How do we know this contract is legitimate?" A judge who looked like a giant floating brain responded, "Agent Park, your species was not part of galactic civilization 400 years ago. The War of the Seven Suns is well documented in galactic history." Agent Park sat down, looking frustrated. Vex 9 turned to Jake. "Mr. Morrison, do you have any memory of signing this contract?" "No," Jake said. "I don't remember being anyone named Demon Blackheart. I don't remember any wars or alien planets. I remember growing up in Denver, going to high school, learning to fix cars. Memory loss is common in reincarnation," Advocate Thorne said. "It does not invalidate the contract." "However," said Zrix, who was serving as the tribunal's legal expert, "we have discovered something unusual during our tests." He activated a holographic display that showed Jake's biological readings. The human subject shows complete resistance to sanguine bonding influence. "This is unprecedented," Lyra stood up suddenly. "What does that mean?" "It means," said the jellyfish judge, "that even if the contract is valid, it may not be possible to enforce it." Jake felt a strange sensation in his chest, like something was getting stronger inside him. "What kind of resistance?" Groot 7, the tree person, rustled his leaves. "Humans appear to have evolved a natural immunity to psychic bonding. The more pressure applied, the stronger the resistance becomes." "That's impossible," Advocate Thorne said. "No species is completely immune to sanguine influence. Would you like to test that theory?" asked the brain judge. Advocate Thorne looked at Lyra, who nodded. "Very well. Lady Lyra, please attempt to establish a psychic bond with the subject." Lyra walked over to Jake's table. She placed her hands on either side of his face and looked directly into his eyes. Her purple eyes began glowing brighter. Jake felt something trying to push into his mind. It was like someone knocking on a door, but the door was locked and getting stronger every second. Instead of feeling weak or controlled, Jake felt more like himself than he had in days. "I don't think so," he said firmly, and pushed Lyra's hands away. Lyra stumbled backward, looking shocked. "That should have worked." "It always works." "Fascinating," said Groot 7. The human's resistance actually increased during the bonding attempt. Jake stood up and realized he felt different, stronger, more confident. "You know what? I'm tired of all this." He turned to address the tribunal. "I don't care if this contract is real or not. I don't care if I was some alien lord in a past life. I'm Jake Morrison. I'm a human being, and I choose who I want to be with. Choice is not relevant to contract law," Vex 9 said. "Maybe it should be," Jake replied. He felt energy flowing through him, like he had just discovered muscles he never knew he had. "You want to know what makes humans different? We don't accept fate. We make our own decisions." Lyra was staring at him with wonder. "You're glowing," she whispered. Jake looked down at his hands. She was right. A soft white light was emanating from his skin. "What's happening to me?" he asked. The brain judge made excited bubbling sounds. "Remarkable. The human is generating a bioneural field. He's actively evolving in response to psychic pressure." Agent Park was frantically taking notes. "Is this normal for humans?" "We don't know," Groot 7 admitted. "Humans are the first species we've encountered that becomes stronger when resisting sanguine influence." Jake felt like he could run a marathon or lift a car. More importantly, he felt completely sure of himself for the first time in his life. "Lyra," he said, turning to face her, "I know you believe I'm your husband. I know you've been looking for me for a long time. But I'm not him. I'm me." "But the genetic match," Lyra said weakly. "Genes aren't everything. Jake said. I am not defined by my DNA, I am defined by my choices. Advocate Thorne stepped forward. This is all very touching, but genetic evidence does not lie. Maybe not, said the jellyfish judge, but it doesn't tell the whole story either. She activated another display. We've been running tests on human genetic samples provided by the Earth government. Humans have a unique genetic trait that we've never seen before. What trait? Agent Park asked. Adaptive free will, the brain judge explained. Your species literally evolves in real time to preserve your ability to make independent choices. Jake looked around the tribunal room. Everyone was staring at him like he was some kind of scientific miracle. So what does this mean for the contract? He asked as Rix consulted his legal database. If the human cannot be psychically bonded, then the contract cannot be fully executed. Under galactic law, a contract that cannot be enforced is considered void. Void? Lyra asked, her voice barely a whisper. I'm afraid so, Vex 9 said. The tribunal rules that while the original contract may have been valid, it cannot be enforced on a human subject due to species incompatibility. Lyra sank into her chair. She looked smaller somehow, like she was shrinking into herself. Jake felt his anger fade as he watched her. He walked over and knelt beside her chair. Lyra, I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear. 400 years, she said quietly. I searched for 400 years. Maybe, Jake said gently, you were looking for the wrong thing. She looked up at him with tears in her purple eyes. What do you mean? Maybe you weren't supposed to find your old husband. Maybe you were supposed to find something new. Before Lyra could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed and alien voices spoke in languages Jake couldn't understand. Agent Park was shouting into her radio. What do you mean another ship? How big? Vex 9 was reading from his tablet, his blue face turning pale. Sanguine Imperial Navy battlecruiser class. They're demanding we release Lady Lyra immediately. Release me? Lyra stood up, looking confused. But I came here voluntarily. Apparently, Zrick said nervously. The Sanguine Empire considers your contract dispute to be a matter of planetary security. Jake felt that new strength flowing through him again. What does that mean? It means, said the brain judge, that we may be about to witness the first interstellar war caused by a dating problem. Jake looked at Lyra, who was staring out the crystal wall at space. In the distance, a massive ship was approaching. It was black and covered in weapons, and it was heading straight for them. This is all my fault, Lyra whispered. No, Jake said, taking her hand. This is about something bigger than both of us. He turned to the tribunal. What happens now? Now, Vex 9 said grimly. We find out if human stubbornness is stronger than sanguine pride. As the enemy ship grew larger in the view screen, Jake realized that his simple life as a mechanic was officially over. Whether he liked it or not, he was about to become the most important human in the galaxy. And somehow that didn't scare him as much as it should have. The Sanguine battlecruiser filled the view screen like a giant black mountain covered in glowing weapons. Jake had never seen anything so scary in his life, but somehow he wasn't afraid. The strange energy flowing through him made him feel like he could face anything. Tribunal vessel, prepare to surrender the human criminal, came a deep voice over the ship's communication system. You have violated Sanguine sovereignty. Criminal? Jake asked. What did I do? Lyra looked ashamed. I may have not told the Imperial Navy that I was leaving on a personal mission. You went AWOL from space military? Agent Park asked. I prefer to think of it as following my heart, Lyra replied. Vex 9 was frantically pressing buttons on his control panel. Lord Commander Vex, this is Administrator Vex 9 of the Galactic Mediation Council. We are conducting official tribunal business under Article 12 of the Galactic Peace Accords. Your tribunal is irrelevant, the Sanguine commander replied. Return Lady Lyra and the human who corrupted her, or we will take them by force. Jake stepped forward. The white glow around him was getting brighter. Nobody corrupted anybody, and I'm not going anywhere I don't choose to go. Jake, Agent Park warned, maybe don't antagonize the aliens with the giant space weapons. But Jake felt something building inside him. Like a voice that had been quiet his whole life was finally ready to speak. You know what? He said, addressing the Sanguine ship directly. I've had enough of this. I've spent the last few days being told what I am, what I was, and what I have to do. Well, here's what I say to all of that. He walked to the center of the tribunal chamber. The alien judges, Agent Park, Lyra, and everyone else watched as the light around Jake grew so bright they had to shield their eyes. "I am Jake Morrison," he said, and his voice somehow carried throughout the entire ship and probably to the Sanguine vessel as well. "I am a human being. I was born free, I live free, and I will die free. No contract, no genetic match. No cosmic destiny is going to change that." The energy pouring out of him was so intense that the crystal walls of the tribunal chamber began resonating like musical instruments. "I choose my own path. I choose my own relationships. I choose my own future. And right now I choose to tell the Sanguine Empire that they can take their ancient laws and their predetermined bonds and their blood contracts and throw them into the nearest black hole." The Sanguine commander's voice came back, but this time it sounded uncertain. What is happening? Our psychic sensors are detecting impossible energy levels from the human." Groot 7 was rustling excitedly.
"He's not just resisting sanguine influence anymore.
"He's broadcasting human free will as a psychic force. Is that dangerous?" Agent Park asked. "For the Sanguine?" The brain judge said. "Potentially very much so." Jake felt the power flowing through him, reaching out toward the enemy ship. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone, but he was definitely trying to make a point. "You want to know what makes humans special?" he called out. "It's not that we're stronger or smarter or more advanced. It's that we refuse to accept that anything is inevitable. We believe we can change anything, overcome anything, choose anything." On the view screen, they could see the Sanguine battlecruiser beginning to shake. "Lord Commander," came a panicked voice from the enemy ship. "Our crew is experiencing spontaneous free will surges. They're questioning orders. Some are asking why we're threatening peaceful tribunal proceedings." "That's impossible," the commander replied. "Sanguine do not question authority." "They do now," Jake said with a grin. "Congratulations, you're all becoming more human." Lyra was staring at Jake with an expression he had never seen before. It wasn't the desperate, love-struck look she usually wore. This was something new. Something like respect. "You're magnificent," she whispered. "Lady Lyra," came the commander's voice, now much less confident. "Please report your status." Lyra stood up and walked over to stand beside Jake. "My status is that I am learning something new about choice and freedom, Lord Commander. Something we Sanguine have forgotten." "You will return to your duties immediately," the commander ordered. "No," Lyra said simply. "I choose to stay here and study human customs." The word choice echoed through both ships like a bell. Jake could feel every Sanguine on the battlecruiser suddenly experiencing the novel concept of having options. "This is mutiny," the commander said weakly. "This is evolution," Lyra replied. Jake felt the energy inside him stabilizing. He was still glowing, but not so brightly that it hurt to look at him. "So here's what's going to happen," he announced. "The Sanguine Empire is going to leave Earth alone. Lyra is going to stay here if she wants to, not because of any contract, but because it's her choice." He turned to the tribunal. "And the Galactic Council is going to recognize that humans have the right to self-determination, even when it conflicts with alien laws." Vex 9 looked around at his fellow judges. "This is highly irregular, but given the circumstances..." "Given the circumstances," the jellyfish judge said, "we rule in favor of human autonomy. The contract is not only void, but the entire concept of binding souls without consent is hereby declared incompatible with human rights. Furthermore," added the brain judge, "we recommend that the Galactic Council establish new protocols for dealing with species that possess adaptive free will." Agent Park was frantically writing everything down. "This is going to make one heck of a report." The Sanguine commander's voice came over the radio one last time. "Lady Lyra, the Empire will not forget this betrayal." "It's not betrayal," Lyra replied. "It's growth. The Sanguine have been bound by ancient traditions for too long. Perhaps it's time we learn to choose our own paths as well." The battlecruiser slowly turned and began moving away from Earth. Jake finally let the energy inside him fade. He felt normal again, except for a lingering sense of strength and confidence that he suspected would never leave him. "So," he said to Lyra, "what happens now?" "Now," she said, "I would like to learn about this thing you humans call dating." "Dating?" "Yes. You choose your mates based on compatibility and affection rather than binding contracts." "This concept fascinates me," Jake laughed. "It's not as easy as it sounds." "Nothing worthwhile is easy," Lyra replied. I would like to start with understanding why you were so determined to court the coffee shop female. Katie? Well, she's smart and funny and pretty and she makes really good coffee. These are mate selection criteria? Some of them, yeah. Lyra nodded seriously. I see. And you accomplish this through shared meals and conversation, usually. Though most first dates don't involve alien invasions. I will keep that in mind for future reference. Agent Park walked over to them. Mr. Morrison, the president would like to speak with you. Something about being humanity's first ambassador to galactic civilization. Ambassador? Jake asked. I'm just a mechanic. A mechanic who just prevented an interstellar war using the power of human stubbornness, Agent Park replied. I think that qualifies you for the job. 2 weeks later, Jake was back at Romano's Italian restaurant. They had fixed the window that Lyra had crashed through, and the staff had agreed to seat him again after Agent Park explained that it had been a matter of national security. Katie sat across from him, looking beautiful in the same blue dress she had worn on their disastrous first date. So, she said, cutting her lasagna, how was your week as the most famous person on Earth? Weird, Jake admitted. I had to testify before Congress, give interviews to every news station in the world, and explain human dating customs to a galactic cultural exchange committee. And Lyra? Jake glanced toward the back of the restaurant where Lyra sat at a table by herself. She was studying a book called Modern Human Courtship Rituals and taking careful notes. She's learning, Jake said. Yesterday she asked me why humans don't just announce their genetic compatibility and proceed directly to mating. Katie laughed. What did you tell her? That the fun is in figuring out if you're compatible. And what did she say to that? She said humans are the most inefficient species in the galaxy, but also the most interesting. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Jake was amazed at how normal this felt after everything that had happened. Jake, Katie said eventually, do you ever wonder what would have happened if Lyra had been right? If you really were her husband from a past life? Jake thought about it. Sometimes. But then I remember that it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Why not? Because even if I was him in a past life, I'm me now. And I choose who I want to be with, Katie smiled. I like that answer. From across the restaurant, Lyra raised her glass of wine in a small salute. She had learned that humans appreciated privacy during courtship activities, though she still found the whole process mystifying. So, Katie said, what happens next? Are you really going to be an ambassador? Part-time, Jake said. I'm still going to fix cars. Turns out the galaxy needs more mechanics anyway. And Lyra? She's thinking about opening a cultural consulting business. Apparently there are a lot of alien species who want to understand humans better. Katie grinned. A space vampire running a cultural consulting business. Only in your life, Jake Morrison. Hey, Jake said, raising his glass, at least our second date is going better than our first. That's a pretty low bar to clear, yeah. But I'm confident we can handle anything now. Outside the restaurant window, a small alien ship landed in the